Hello everyone, my name is Vinod and welcome to my channel Win Career Talks. In today's conversation, this is the second part of a three-part conversation on green cards. And I'm going to focus specifically on different steps in the green card process and help you understand what it takes to apply for a green card process as you wade through each step. And it could take up to 10 to 14 years to get your actual green card. It sounds surprising, isn't it? So I think it's easy if I jump in and walk through each step in more detail. So I'm going to begin by sharing a presentation. So when you finish your bachelor's degree or your master's degree in the US, what happens is that you have to work in a company for a certain period of time before you express interest in getting a green card. So once you express your interest in getting a green card, there's something called a Perm labor certification which needs to be done. Now, this Perm labor certification is true for both H-1B visas and also L-1 visas. So the H-1B visas are for people who have come to the US to pursue their higher education and want to continue to be in the US. The L-1 visa is for people who have worked abroad in a different subsidiary of the company and who have been relocated to the US. And the steps for both the H-1B and L-1 visa is very similar. So it begins with the Perm labor certification, and there are different steps involved. So during this process, the company has to go to the external market and understand how much should it pay to people who they need to be sponsoring for green cards. They also need to check if there are other applicants from within the US who are also interested in getting the same job. And the only way they can proceed taking a foreign national is based on the fact that they're not able to get enough domestic applicants, and that is the reason why they want international applicants. And that's the reason why they're sponsoring the international green card. So the Perm labor certification is the first step. And the second step is actually filing for something called an I-140 petition. Now, these terms may sound very unique and arcane, but bear with me because once you go through the green card process, these terms like I-140, I-485, and so on, like EAD, becomes very apparent as to what it means. So the biggest time in terms of the waiting is actually from getting stage 2, which is I-140 done, to getting your I-485, which is adjustment of status for a green card application. So this wait currently is around 10 to 12 years, and it could be even more in the future. And this is only for Indians. If you belong to any other country, it actually is much smaller. It could probably take something between 6 months to 2 years for every other country, especially countries in Europe or even Sri Lanka. But unfortunately, Indians have the longest wait when it comes to immigration petitions because there are so many people filing from India, and there is a quota restriction from the US government when it comes to sponsoring green cards. So there's limited slots to go around for each country. And India, because it's a huge nation, has a lot of Indians waiting forever to get their green cards. But that's a subject for a different video. Once you get your I-1485, which is your adjustment of status done, then it's a very easy process towards getting your green card. And you can also express your interest in getting a citizenship right after that. So let's try to understand why getting a green card is important. Getting a green card is important because firstly, it gives you unlimited right to work in the US without needing to get H-1B sponsorship from your employer. This also means that you can work in certain industries like defense. It could be high security industries where typically people with just H-1B degree may not be hired for the roles. And you need to have clearance from the government and a green card to apply for these jobs. So it opens up your range of jobs you can apply for. A lot of companies in the US do not even touch people who do not have a green card. A lot of companies want a green card before they even consider you for jobs. So that's the reason why this green card is very important. It also gives you the flexibility to bring your parents to the US, help them get a green card. It also gives you flexibility to bring your siblings to the US and help them get a green card. So there are certain advantages with getting a green card. But now let's dig into the second piece of what I wanted to talk about today in terms of how long does it take to get this entire process done. So I've referred a lot from this website called happyschools.com. So this is where I got a bunch of the information from. So do check up their website. But ideally, what happens is that, let's begin from the top. When a student joins a company, typically they wait for maybe 6 months to 2 years before the company even decides to sponsor you for a green card. In fact, there are companies which have specific rules saying that unless you have finished 6 months in a company, they cannot even begin your green card application. So sometimes you may want to talk to your employer to understand how soon they will be sponsoring a green card. There are also companies which take forever to even begin the process of a green card, which means that you may have to wait 4 to 5 years even before they begin the green card application. So the first wait is to even begin the process, you have to wait for 6 months, 2 or 2 years. In the worst case scenario, it could go up to 4 to 5 years. Then you come to stage 1, which is a perm labor certification. So this is kind of checking the external labor market in the US, and there are different steps involved. It requires a company to understand what the wage is for the position you are in. That could take up to 3 months. They need to put up a notice of your job and see if the other applicants for these jobs and vet them and make a case to the US government saying that the company did not find enough suitable domestic candidates and US citizens for this job, and that's why they're hiring international employees. So you can pretty much understand that if you're working in industries like tech and high technology, there are not enough people with graduate degrees in STEM degrees and engineering degrees in the US. So it becomes easier to get the perm labor certification done if you are an engineering occupation. So the entire process of filing perm, this could take close to a year, if not more. So that's stage 1. Stage 2 is when the company has to explicitly state their interest in filing for an I-140 immigration petition. So this could take up to 6 months. And there is also a premium processing available if you want to get it done faster. So typically the process from the time you join a company to getting your I-140 could range between 2 to 2.5 years if you're lucky. And it could go up to many more years if you're unlucky. The next step, which is from stage 2 to stage 3, is where the longest wait happens. So the wait could be up to 10 years, could be up to 12 years. For most people who come to the US with a bachelor's and a master's degree. Now, the situation is very different for people with a PhD degree, because once you have a PhD degree, once you toil away for 5 to 6 years in the US and get a PhD degree, you don't really need to get a perm labor certification done. And also the wait for the transition from stage 2 to stage 3 is going to take much lesser time, especially if you have a lot of publishing records and if your filing has been done under a category of visas called EB1 visas. So most people with a bachelor's and master's degree apply through categories of visas called EB2 and EB3. EB2 is typically for people with a master's degree, and EB3 is typically for people with a bachelor's degree. In fact, the situation for Indians is so screwed up that the wait time for both EB2 and EB3 is pretty much the same. It's close to 10 to 12 years, and this varies year on year. In a different video, I will talk about the fact that this waiting time is actually increasing year after year and is projected to move up to 150 years for people under EB2 degree. When I said EB2 degree, I'm talking about people with an advanced degree applying under the EB2 visa category. Stage 3 is when you wait till your date becomes current. You know, there are a lot of terms I'm using. You will understand this later as you go through the process, but your green card application is pending for 10 years to 12 years. And when it becomes current and when dates open up and you become eligible to apply for a change of status, that's called adjustment of I-485. At that point, you can get your work permit, and that gives you flexibility to work in the US. And if you're leaving the country, you need to apply for something called advanced parole, but I'm not going to dig into that right now. So you get basically your green card around the time your adjustment of status happens to I-485. So once you get your green card, what happens is that there's a 5-year wait for getting a citizenship. So if you enter the US at, say, age 22 to pursue a master's degree, and by the time you get your citizenship, it's going to take probably around 20 years, if not more. So just be aware that it could take a long time. You could be well into your late 30s or early 40s by the time you get your green card. So this really is the current status of green cards. Okay, friends, I'm going to pause my video out here. Let me know in the comments below if you have other questions, and do smash the subscribe button if you want to hear more news about working outside the US, education, careers, and so on. Thanks, everyone. Cheers, and hopefully I'll see you later in the next video. Bye-bye.